I will never forget that night as long as I live. A woman kneeling right in front of me, crying, her shaking hands, working to undo her own clothes. My sister-in-law, she knew, 26 years old. The woman who watched me grow up, who cared for me like her own little brother. But now, with red eyes and a shaking voice, she said something that made my scalp crawl. Shanha, please just be with me. Her words hit like a needle driven straight into my skin. I threw my hand out to push her away. But in my blind panic, my palm landed square on a place it had absolutely no business touching. For a split second, my mind went totally blank, just a roaring in my ears. She melted right into me, her whole body pressing against my chest, burning breath scorching my neck as she begged through the sobs. Sister-in-law has no way out anymore. Your brother went up the mountain to hunt, and that crazed wild boar tore his leg clean off. He is crippled. Our family of 4 is about to starve. If you refuse to pull the harness with me, then me and the kids, we have nothing left. By then her tears were hitting my bare chest, one heavy drop after another. Let me stop and explain what pulling the harness actually means. It was a dark survival tactic during those brutal years. When a man got crippled and could not work, could not feed his own family, he brings an able-bodied man into the household to live there, share the wife, and support everyone. In plain English, another guy steps in and takes over the husband's role in bed. In our village Kawasant, this kind of arrangement was not rare at all. But I could not cross that line, not in a million years, because the crippled man in the back room was Shawanju. I owed him a debt I could never repay, not even with my life. I lost my mother at 5, my father at 7. An orphan like me should have frozen or starved to death in the dirt long ago. But brother Shawnju's parents, my second uncle and aunt, raised me up one bowl of gruel at a time. In my heart, Shawnju was my blood brother. And now she wanted me to sleep with his wife. I could not do it. You could kill me and I still would not do it. Plus, here is a secret I have to let you in on. I do not actually belong to this era. I was reincarnated here from a much later time. An age when nobody worried about food or clothes. When I crossed over, I was still a nursing baby. This timeline was nearly identical to the 1950s I remembered from the history books. Dirt poor, backwards, famine everywhere. Empty bellies were just a daily fact of life. So that night, I gritted my teeth, steeled my heart, and lifted my sister-in-law right back to her feet. Then I said the most manly thing of my entire life. Sister-in-law, I will not pull the harness. That is my line and I refuse to cross it. But your family's troubles, those are mine now. Brother Shawanju's family saved my life. I owe them absolutely everything. Starting tomorrow, I am going up that mountain to hunt. I will feed this whole family myself. And you know what? The second those words left my mouth, something wild happened. A cold, mechanical voice suddenly rang out inside my head. Congratulations, host. You have awakened the all-purpose hunt system. Beginner's gift pack unlocked. One top-tier hunting hound. I froze. This system sure knew exactly how to pick its moment. Then it explained the rules. Every time I killed prey, it would score the hunt out of 100 points. For every 10 points over the threshold, I earned 1 hunting point. The rarer the beast, the higher the score, the more points I racked up. Those points could be spent upgrading my own stats. My strength, my speed, whatever, or upgrading my hunting dog. My very first reaction? That is it. Every other guy thrown into another world gets some world-ending, all-powerful system. Me? I get a dog and a scoreboard. But before I could argue with the voice, the woman in my arms shifted again. She must have felt a reaction from me. I mean, I was an 18-year-old kid, blood pumping full and hot. My body was way more honest than my brain. Her face flushed crimson. In a voice as thin as a mosquito's whine, she said something that damn near broke me. I jolted like I had been electrocuted. All that heat inside me doused in an absolute instant. I shoved her away and bolted out of the room. Outside, the cool night wind hit me, and I finally got my head on straight. Leaning against the door frame, I let out a long breath and swore an oath. Shanha, you handsome son of a gun. Everyone from 10 villages around knows your name. One day you are going to marry a wife the proper honorable way. You absolutely cannot do this. You will not let people whisper behind your back about being some kept man who pulled the harness. Sure, I was flat broke right now, but I had the system. With my hunting, I was not just going to eat meat every single meal. I was going to build a massive brick house and get rich. Once I did, was I really going to worry about finding a good girl? The second I thought it through, the fire in my gut died down. Before sister-in-law left, my whole flinching away routine actually cracked her up a little. She said it was pitch black out there anyway. What mountain are you planning to charge up in the dead of night? You do not even have a proper weapon. Seriously? You going to fight bears with your bare hands? Come by first thing tomorrow morning. Take Brother Zoo's rifle. She walked away, then turned back for one last heavy look. Hope mixed with shyness in her eyes, and a flicker of something wounded I could not quite put a name to. That entire night, I combed through every single thing the system offered. For the head-high hound, the system gave me two distinct options. Conjure one completely out of thin air, or point to an existing regular dog and let the system upgrade it. I did not hesitate for a single second. Second option. Suddenly manifesting a top-tier hunting dog nobody in the village had ever seen before, that would stick out like a sore thumb. Zero way to explain it. If somebody snitched, I would be in deep trouble. As it happened, Brother Xuanju owned a massive black dog named Xiao Tian. 4 years old, sharp as a tack, and practically half human. I actually gave him that name back when I still hoped he would grow into the legendary sky-roaring hound from the old myths, tearing through the mountains in absolute glory. System. Pick him. Upgrade Xiaotian into a head-high hound. Command confirmed. Hound Xiaotian evolution complete. He has automatically recognized you as his master. Here is the difference between head-high and head-down scent hounds. A standard hunting dog jams its nose into the dirt and tracks the physical steps of its prey. That is head-down scenting. A head-high hound is an entirely different beast. Keeps its head up and pulls the scent straight out of the wind. Faster, sharper, deadlier. Dogs like that are almost always born, never made. Training one from scratch? Worse odds than tripping over a solid gold ingot on some random mountain trail. Next morning, right as dawn started to break, I headed straight to Brother Xuanju's place. The exact second I stepped into that yard, my chest tightened. Brother Xuanju's two kids. 7-year-old Xiao Ling and her 5-year-old brother Xiao Deng. Two little ones barely taller than the handle itself, struggling together to heave a chipped hatchet down onto a stubborn block of firewood. Kids that small should be curled up in a lap somewhere, begging for sweets. Instead, they were out here doing brutal, back-breaking labor. I stepped up to grab the axe, but little Ling gripped the handle tight. She stared right up at me, stubborn as a mule, and told me, "Uncle Xiao, I am not little anymore." She said she could help Mama now. Looking at those tiny knuckles bone white with effort, my nose stung. Sister-in-law walked out of the kitchen with my brother's rifle already prepped. She quietly told me to go inside and see her husband. I pushed open the creaky door. A suffocating wall of bitter medicinal herbs slammed right into my face. Brother Xuanju lay on the bed, one pant leg hanging completely empty, one arm trapped in a sling. The barefoot doctor warned that even if the arm healed, the strength was gone forever. He had wasted away until I barely recognized him. Sunken eyes, sharp cheekbones, absolutely nothing left of the rugged hunter who used to feed this entire family by himself. I called out to him, "Brother." That single word was enough to bring tears flooding into this 6-foot-tall man's eyes. Ever since he lost the leg, he refused visitors, just scowled at the walls all day. But now he gripped my sleeve and sobbed like a child. He cried, "Shanha, your brothers failed you. I refuse to ruin your future too. But look at me. I am completely useless. If you do not find your sister-in-law too shameful, take her. Give me a son to carry on this family name. That is all I want, brother. I just need the three of them to survive." I squeezed his freezing hand, locking eyes with him, and spelled it out. "Brother, do not ever say that again." Without second uncle and second aunt, I would have frozen or starved to death in the dirt years ago. I owe this family my life. I am not going to take your wife. But starting today, you are all my family, and I am the one feeding this house. Brother Xuanju broke down completely after that, weeping until exhaustion finally dragged him under. I walked out of that room and slung the heavy rifle over my shoulder. It was a Type 38 Arasaka. A battered antique second uncle had left behind for Brother Xuanju. Effective range of about 400 meters. Perfect for the beasts in these mountains. Beside it sat 2 packets of ammo, 15 rounds apiece, pure gleaming brass. Sister-in-law had already polished the barrel until it shined. She led Xiao Tian out to the yard. Time for a test. I called for Xiao Tian. That massive black dog, usually wild as a rabid demon, heard my voice and streaked straight to my boots. He circled my legs, taking a deep, ragged sniff, just verifying the scent permanently burned into his brain, the scent of his absolute master. Instantly, his tail started whipping back and forth. I tossed out a few more commands. Sit, back, stop. Every single motion executed clean and crisp like flowing water. Sister-in-law just stared at us, completely dumbfounded. She had raised this beast for 4 long years. A feral nightmare that only ever wanted to rip into strangers. Since when was he so damn obedient? All I could do was mumble something vague. Guessing that was it, I clicked. But deep down, I knew the upgrade had worked. This dog was completely reborn. Just as I was leaving, she followed me right to the courtyard gate. She kept twisting her apron in both hands, voice as thin as a mosquito. "Shanha, the mountain is not safe right now. You really have to be careful. I will keep your food warm until you get back." The sisit's words left her mouth. Her ears flushed bright red. I did not stick around. I whistled for Xiao Tian and set off with long strides deep into the Alo mountain range. I have to warn you up front. A low mountain is nothing like those peaceful little woods where tourists go to take casual strolls. It is a graveyard for veteran hunters, a place that has swallowed more men than anyone can count. Ancient trees blot out the sun all year. Even the absolute best seasoned trackers only dare to skirt the outer edges. Because deep inside that primeval forest, along with the deadly snakes and killer beasts, sits an even worse threat. The outlaws and desperate men lurking in the shadows. Once we hit the tree line, I tore open a packet of rounds. I thumped 5 into the magazine, one at a time. Clack! I pulled the bolt back and slammed it home. The cold, heavy weight of that rifle pressed hard against my palm. That was the only thing that let me stand my ground out here in the wild. I really only had one goal for this trip: track down the giant boar that crippled Brother Schwanju, and finally settle the damn score. We called that kind of monster a cannonball boar, mostly because they were massive, terrifyingly big. I crouched down and spoke right to Xiaotian. Xiaotian, today is the day you show me what you are really made of. You still remember that giant cannonball scent, right? Go on, find him. Xiaotian let out a low whine. He raised his enormous head high, sniffed the wind, and just bolted into the thick brush. The stamina on this dog was nothing like I had ever seen. He was insanely fast. After 20 minutes, I was gasping for air, unable to keep up. Lucky for me, he was smart. Every time he outran me, he would stop and wait, incredibly patient. We wove through the forest like that for about half an hour. Then just up ahead, a fierce, savage barking suddenly burst out. My heart jumped. We found him. I checked the bolt and moved straight toward the sound, pushing aside a thick wall of shrubs. What I saw took my breath away. In the clearing up ahead stood a literal mountain of black flesh. That was the cannonball boar. All right. I put him at 5, maybe 600 pounds. His body was crusted over with a thick armor of dried pine resin and mud, and in the face of Xiao Tian roaring furiously at him, this forest tyrant did not even bother lifting an eyelid. White steam blasted from his massive nostrils. He let out a low, heavy, chugging grunt, just trying to scare the dog off. Thankfully, upgraded Xiao Tian was smart as a whip now. He never charged head-on. He kept his distance, always staying in range to dodge. Then the second he saw me raise the rifle into position, his courage doubled. He bared his fangs and roared louder than ever. I brought the heavy rifle up and locked right onto the boar. The distance between us was under 100 meters. That old monster had lived long enough to grow extremely cunning. Somehow he caught a whiff of gunpowder on the wind. His thick hooves began pawing furiously at the earth. He wanted to run, but he was terrified of turning his back on the hunting dog. He wanted to charge, but he deeply feared that black pipe resting in my hands. Then, in the very next heartbeat, he made his move. He charged straight at Xiao Tian. But the dog was quick as a shadow, twisting midair to slip past those deadly tusks. Once the massive boar missed, he should have had to circle around and build up his speed again. But this old bastard was cleverer than any beast had a right to be. He used his own momentum to skid into a hard turn through the mud, and came roaring straight at me. I clenched the rifle and stared him down. The earth was violently shaking under his weight. 80 meters, 50 meters, bang! The rifle roared. The bullet drove deep into his back. But this thick-hided monster had an unbelievable amount of life left inside him. That shot did not kill him. It only made him truly furious. In the split second I had left, my entire mind went blank. My right hand instinctively yanked and slammed the bolt. The spent casing pinged high into the air as the next round chambered home. This time, I aimed directly for his head. Bang! The absolute colossus went down with the shot. His sheer momentum sent him tumbling several times across the dirt, before he finally rolled to a dead stop. He lay less than 15 meters away from me. Congratulations, host. You successfully killed one adult wild boar. Weight, 512 caddies. Score 34, reward 3 hunting points. I just stared at those bulging brass bell eyes. They were still wide open, still completely filled with rage. I just stood there, completely dazed. In that fever-pitch moment, my mind had held absolutely no fear, no hesitation. Just bolt chamber aim, fire one single, clean rhythm. But now, snapping back to reality, a freezing wave crawled up my spine, straight up to the crown of my head. If my hand had trembled, if that muzzle had lifted even half an inch, the thing lying gutted on this ground would have been me. My palms were slick with cold sweat. It took me a good while to finally steady myself. Then I walked over to the giant boar. It was early autumn. 500 pounds of fresh kill wouldn't keep. If I didn't gut and bleed him fast, he would reek within hours. And the stench of that much blood would bring the whole forest down on me. Luckily for me, back when I was a kid, I helped Brother Schwanu gut plenty of boars. I knew exactly how this worked. I drew my hunting knife and took a deep breath. Under 10 minutes later, a steaming pile of organs sat on the dirt. Us mountain folk have strict hunting rules. The absolute best cuts a slice of liver, a piece of heart. You carve those off and toss them to the dog who earned his keep. As for the rest of the innards, you hang them in a tree. An offering to the mountain spirits and a meal for other predators. A simple lesson from the elders: you never take absolutely everything. You never wipe out the game entirely. I carved off a massive chunk of warm liver and tossed it over to Xiao Tian. He snatched it midair and trotted behind a rock, settling into the dirt to happily chow down on his prize. But once I finished dressing the carcass, reality hit. An animal this massive? Even two grown men would break their backs trying to haul him down the mountain. I slapped my forehead in sheer frustration. My very first solo trip out here. And blind with revenge, I completely forgot to bring a sled. Going back meant returning in pitch black, and this blood would draw wolf packs within the hour. Just as panic started creeping in, Xiao Tian snapped to attention. He stopped chewing. A low growl rumbled deep in his throat, and the fur along his spine stood dead straight. A hunting dog only makes that sound for one reason. Something very dangerous is approaching. I grabbed the rifle, worked the bolt to double-check, and swung the muzzle exactly where he was staring. Dead silence. Then the heavy crunch of footsteps on dry leaves grew louder, until two men finally stepped out from the trees. Holy hell, would you look at the size of that cannonball boar? Wait, Shanha, is that you, kid? The second I recognized their faces, my muscles went slack. It was 6th Uncle Xiao Jiangwo and 4th Grandpa Xiao Junlang, up in Kewantan. More than half the village shares the surname Xiao. Not exactly blood uncles, but we all traced back to the same ancestor within 5 generations. By village standards, that made us close family. But Xiao Tian lunged forward, teeth fully bared and growling low, desperate to defend me and our fresh kill. I barked at Xiao Tian to get back and finish his meat. Only then did he grudgingly slink behind the rock. Both men just stared, jaws practically unhinged. 6th Uncle pointed at him. Isn't that the mad dog? Since when did that beast learn obedience? I gave him my usual excuse. Guess we just click. 4th Grandpa Xiao Junlang ignored that entirely. He crouched down beside the heavy boar. He studied the fatal bullet wound, then asked in a grim whisper, Shanha, did you bring this monster down? 4th Grandpa was no ordinary elder. He was 59 that year, easily the most respected hunter in all of Kewantan. No wife, no kids. I just nodded. Yeah, it was me, 4th Grandpa. This cannonball boar. I am pretty sure he is the exact one that crippled Brother Xuanu. Xiao Tian led me right to him. Honestly, I think he turned into a head-high hound. 4th Grandpa's head whipped around. His cloudy, sharp eyes went wide. The absolute shock on his weathered face hit harder than when he first saw the giant boar. Xiao Tian became a head-high scent tracker? That is flat-out impossible. I rushed to change the entire subject. You two came out here hunting? Yeah, awful luck though, didn't bag a single thing. 4th Grandpa just let out a dry chuckle. 6th Uncle stood there clicking his tongue. Shanha, you really do have some serious brass. Coming out alone to fight a cannonball boar this huge. 5, maybe 600 pounds of feral muscle. Even 4th Grandpa would never tangle with that solo. I flashed a rueful grin and rubbed my neck. 6th Uncle, I honestly just didn't know any better. My mind completely blanked out, and my hands worked the bolt on instinct alone. Thinking back on it now gives me cold chills. 6th Uncle exploded with laughter. But 4th Grandpa's eyes lit up bright the more he stared. The more he liked what he saw. Shanha, was this your first time shooting at live game? I told him I had fired rifles before, but at a living target? Yeah. My very first. Good kid. You were practically born to be a soldier. 4th Grandpa slapped his thigh hard. Taking a life is never easy, he said. Especially holding your ground against a raging monster like this. That kind of pure nerve, it proved the iron inside a man. My parents were long gone, leaving no one to hold me back. Bold, straight shooting, totally ice-cold under fire. In his eyes, the military was built for guys like me. Something violently jolted in my chest. Hot blood rushed to my head. Back in this era, being a soldier meant guaranteed rations and an army uniform. It was a badge of fierce pride like nothing else. At the absolute least, you would never starve. You stood tall, shoulders back. And if you achieved greatness for your country, that was the kind of deep family honor everybody dreamed of. What red-blooded guy wouldn't crave something like that? I could genuinely enlist. But before that hope even had a chance to show on my face, 6th Uncle threw a bucket of cold water on it. Uncle, the army rules are different now. Shanha has a unique situation. He probably won't make the cut. He has no family left, the last of his bloodline. Nowadays, the military has a strict rule. Guys like him, 0 parents, completely alone. They ban them from joining. You have to get married first, leave someone behind, to pass down the family name. My eyes just lost their spark. 4th Grandpa retired years ago. Been cooped up deep in these mountains ever since. He had 0 clue the policies changed. But 6th Uncle beat his own chest and laid it out. He was absolutely certain. Went into town recently to deliver some cargo, and the notice was right there at the recruiting station. Plain as day. 4th Grandpa let out a heavy sigh. What a massive shame. A good sapling wasted. I moved past it pretty fast, actually. Smiled and tried comforting him. Told him it was perfectly fine. Sure, serving the country would have been a huge honor. But working as a hunter out in these mountains is not a bad life. Just one mouth to feed, totally free. Fourth Grandpa gave me a long, steady look. Bold but careful and genuinely open-hearted to boot. The more he watched me, the more he liked what he saw. All right, he told us, enough talking. He waved his hand, slipping right back into veteran hunter mode. Jangwo Shanha, get moving, hack down 2 thick poles. Time to drag this cannonball boar out of here. Every minute we wait around all this blood, we invite every mountain wolf over for supper. His gaze caught the offering I hung in the tree. The innards all cleanly dressed and laid out. He gave a really satisfied nod. I knew exactly what he was thinking. This kid understands the rules and respects the mountain. If he could not be a soldier, he would damn well be a top-tier hunter. Under 10 minutes later, we cut 2 hardwood poles thick as a wrist. We lashed the boar's 4 hooves to them. The 3 of us took turns, shouldering the dead weight, and pushed straight out of the woods. Xiao Tian, let's head home. Get up front and clear our path. Xian threw his head back with a sharp bark, then dashed ahead, scanning the trees. Fourth Grandpa and Sixth Uncle quietly clicked their tongues in awe. They swore that Hound was not a dog anymore. He was a mountain spirit. By the time the 3 of us, huffing, groaning, and completely drenched in sweat, finally hauled that monster back into Kawantan, the women stitching shoe soles and swapping gossip by the village gates absolutely lost their minds. Sweet Mother of Heaven, they yelled. That is the mountain god's own steed. Just look at it. Look at that wild boar. It has to be some kind of spirit beast. The crowd completely swarmed us the second they saw Fourth Grandpa leading the pack. People rushed up with beaming faces, laying the flattery on incredibly thick. Wow, Fourth Grandpa, you absolutely still have it. Not a single person in Kawantan is a better shot than you. Save my family a few ounces to taste. Normally, Fourth Grandpa ate that praise right up. He would smile and dole out scraps of meat to everyone. But this time, against all odds, his old face flushed bright red and he cleared his throat twice. He told them to cut the racket. This cannonball boar? I did not shoot it, he paused. Then, staring into a sea of shocked faces, he slapped his hand hard on my sweaty shoulder. Shanha here shot this whole thing all by himself out in the mountains. Me and Zhang Wo just lent a hand hauling the carcass down. The exact moment those words hit the air, the entire village entrance went so dead quiet. You could have heard a pin drop on the dirt. Every single eye went wide as saucers. They stared in total disbelief at a half-grown kid who still had his baby fuzz. That was how they saw me. One woman finally stammered. Wait, Fourth Grandpa. You are not pulling our legs, right? A wild boar this massive. You are seriously saying Shanha took it down? Do I look like a man who needs to lie? Xiao Junliang's mouth twisted sharply downward. There was real bite in his tone. That was Fourth Grandpa actively vouching for me. With just that one sentence, my reputation in this village was permanently made. My name is Xiao Shanha, and that day, walking out of those woods with a 600-pound beast on my back, half the village trailed behind me like a parade. It caused a bigger racket than the New Year market, but I knew deep down that fame invites pure trouble. Just like a fat pig invites a butcher's carving knife. Now that my name was out there, the headaches were closely following. The very first to swarm me were the nosy aunties and old ladies of the village. The literal second Fourth Grandpa backed me up. Those women's expressions shifted in an instant. See, Fourth Grandpa Xiao Junliang was a battle-scared veteran who crawled through hails of gunfire. Down in Kuantan, his word was worth 10 of anyone else's. Once he vouched for a thing, nobody dared question it. In a heartbeat, the way those women looked at me completely flipped. Just look at Shanha, a real man now. Shanha, you are what, 18 this year? You are definitely old enough. Time to find a wife to warm that bed of yours. A round-faced auntie moved faster than anyone, elbowing right to the front, beaming at me like I was her own flesh and blood. Auntie has a niece back home. Exact same age as you. Pretty as a peach and a real hard worker. I want to set you two up. How does that sound? Before I could even open my mouth, another old woman cut her off. Get out of here. Your niece is as dark as the bottom of a soot-stained pot. She is absolutely not fit for our Shanha. That was Auntie Sue talking. Her eyes practically glowed as she stared me down. Not to be outdone, she grabbed my arm. Shanha, listen to your auntie. You know my daughter Shioli. She is just 3 years older than you. Right on her heels. Another elder, clearly playing for Auntie Sue's team, pushed in to sweeten the deal. You know how the old saying goes. A wife 3 years older is like a solid brick of gold. Plus that girl has wide hips. One look and you know she will bear you plenty of sons. What do you say? I just stood there speechless. Can you even picture this scene? A whole pack of old women talking over each other, boxing me in so tight I could not move an inch. Spit flying absolutely everywhere. I damn near drowned in it. The truth is, back in that era, putting meat on the table was the single greatest skill a man could have. And what I did, the rugged trade of a hunter. That was not something just anybody could pick up. It took more than guts. It required real skill, snatching food out of a wild beast's mouth and walking out of those mountains alive and in one piece. That was worth its weight in gold. So the second I made a name for myself, I became the sweetest prize in the village. Auntie's elders, I am still young. I am not looking to marry quite yet. I gave a nervous laugh and backed up, completely unable to handle all this wild enthusiasm. Besides, I am dead broke, poorer than a beggar's dog. How am I supposed to afford a wife? I can barely even feed myself. Once I hunt a little more and save up some cash, we can talk about it then. I left that door cracked open on purpose. Did not slam it shut entirely. Why? Because I was clear as glass on the facts. I was not a lonely 21st century bachelor anymore. Waking up in this era meant taking a wife and raising a family was a road literally no man could dodge. The whole country was in the middle of rebuilding. They pushed for bigger families. Try staying single now and watch how fast the village gossip drowns you. And honestly, I kind of wanted it too, hoping my hunting skills would earn me a warm, loving wife by my side. A house full of kids and eventually grandchildren too. Then I could say this second life was worth the trip. The moment I said that, Auntie Sue, whose actual full name was Sue, got this sly gleam in her eye. She started clapping right there on the spot. Now our Shanha here. This boy is incredibly honest and responsible. Just look at him. And since he is deciding, I will send Shaoli over later to tidy up your place. Look at that broken down shack of yours. Cold stove and an empty pot, no woman looking after things. That is absolutely no way to live. Auntie Sue, if you want the honest story, had lived a pretty brutal life. Her husband was killed at the front years ago, leaving her totally alone with 4 kids. Money was tight to the point of absolute physical pain. If the government did not send a small monthly stipend for the widows of the fallen, they would have starved out a long time ago. Now, technically speaking, her family and mine both had the surname Shao, but we were so far removed by blood 8 whole generations back before you even hit a common ancestor. You really could not call us related at all. I was just figuring out how to politely decline when fourth grandpa suddenly exploded. Get the hell out of here, you crazy old woman. What kind of total nonsense are you spouting? But Julian's eyes flashed dangerously, his voice going completely sharp and hard. Shioli is still an unmarried maiden. You mean to shove a single girl into a bachelor's room alone? Word gets out. And what exactly do you think that does to her reputation? Do not stir up trouble for the boy. The way fourth grandpa was blowing up, I knew he was genuinely protecting me. In this era, a girl's virtue was valued way higher than her own life. Whether I was interested or not, if any dirty rumor sparked, nobody would walk away clean. And truth be told, I was a young man with my blood practically boiling, having a pretty girl underfoot every single day who could promise nothing would happen. Auntie Sue took the tongue lashing full force, but her face never dropped its smile. Oh, fourth grandpa. I was really just trying to bring 2 nice kids together. That is all. Do not get so worked up. I looked right at her and sighed internally. What could you even do? Her man was dead. 4 mouths at home begging for food. The entire weight sat squarely on her shoulders, and now she had spotted a kid bringing home fresh meat. How could her heart not stir? Fourth grandpa gave a cold snort, threw her a heavy sideways look, and cut straight to the bone. You think I cannot see right through those little schemes of yours? You want some meat? Just spit it out. Quit dancing around the fire. Fine. Send that lazy boy of yours over later to fetch a piece. Her wrinkles immediately bloomed into the absolute widest smile you ever saw. That is perfect. Thank you, fourth grandpa. Really, thank you. I locked eyes with 6th Uncle Xiao Jiangwo. This was our opening. We pushed through the mob, hoisted the boar onto our shoulders, and started for home. You think that was the end of it? Not a chance. People kept joining our little parade until half the village was marching right behind us. A whole solemn procession felt like a damn funeral. Sweet mother of heaven. Shanha, this beast has got to weigh 500 to 600 pounds. I have never in my born days seen a hog this insanely fat. Some just stared at the swaying meat, throats bobbing with heavy and greedy swallows. I gave a small grin and casually told them something like that. Right at that moment, a shrill voice cut straight through the crowd. Shanha, look at all this meat. You cannot finish it all yourself. It will just go to waste sitting around. Why not share some with everyone? An older woman elbowed her way right to the front, greed written all over her face. The second she opened her mouth, she basically kicked over a beehive. The crowd started buzzing. People agreed that is right, Shanha. You cannot eat that much all by yourself. Share it out. Let us all share in your good fortune today. I laughed on the inside, completely cold and hard. In these tough times, most families saw meat maybe once every few weeks. Now I had brought down a boar this huge, and I lived completely alone. In their minds, if they did not jump on the chance to grab a free piece, they would be failing themselves. My face went completely dark on the spot. A cold smile tugged at the very corner of my mouth. my eyes fixed on fifth auntie, the ringleader, like knives on a wet stone. I brought this pig back with my own life on the line. Shanha is telling all of you right here and now. Back when my parents died, every single one of you who lent a hand gave me a bowl of gruel, or just a bit of steamed bread. Step forward. You will walk away with at least 2 caddies of meat. Guaranteed. Those words hit like a heavy stone in water. More than half the folks instantly shrank back into their collars. Not a single soul dared to speak. Why? Because most of these people watching the show right now had not so much as glanced at me back when my parents died and left me an orphan. And this fifth auntie here, she was absolutely the worst of the lot. Before my parents were even cold in the ground, she started eyeing our old family house, egging her husband on to come and grab it. Lucky for me, fifth uncle was a decent enough man. He cursed her out on the spot, and the two of them actually came to blows over it. Fourth grandpa stood off to the side, arms folded across his chest, his eyes full of total approval. Later, he told me he was honestly worried I would be too soft and cave. He never expected me to handle it so cleanly. Pay back those who did right by me and show the freeloaders nothing but the door. He shouted, "Did you people not hear Shanha?" Fourth grandpa stepped forward. His tiger eyes swept the entire crowd. "What are you all still staring at? Get the hell home." At his shout, more than half the crowd just melted away. But there are always a few who are way too dense to catch a hint. Besides fifth auntie, a handful of the village's shameless troublemakers stayed rooted to the exact spot. They figured they would stick around, just to see if I might soften up and toss them scraps. A slouching middle-aged man swaggered forward. He sneered now. "Shanha, your fifth auntie is talking sense. You cannot finish this much meat by yourself. It will all rot in the end. Give us fellas a share, and we will remember you kindly." This was Xiao Dao, better known as Li Bao, freeloader Bao, the village's biggest deadbeat. Never worked a single day. The weeds in his fields grew taller than a man. His one great talent was sniffing out good food, planting himself at your door and sitting there until sundown if you refused to feed him. Sixth Uncle Xiao Jiangwo had a painfully short fuse. One look at Li Bao angling for a free lunch, and he completely blew his top. He slammed the carrying pole down hard, thrust a finger at Li Bao, and started screaming curses. "Li Bao, you itching for a beating, you son of a bitch?" But Li Bao just gave a cold smirk. Believe it or not, he actually leaned his head closer to the pole. "Come on, hit me. If you do not strip me down to my drawers before this is over, I will literally call you my daddy." Sixth Uncle's hand was shaking on that wood. But as much as he wanted to swing it down on Li Bao's skull, he just did not dare. He had a whole family, young and old, depending on him to survive. Killing a village punk and throwing away his own life for it? Not worth it. Not by a long shot. The second Li Bao saw that Sixth Uncle would not swing. He got even bolder. He picked at his nose and blew a scornful puff of air right in his face. "Not going to hit me? Then step aside, old man. What are you swaggering around for anyway?" Just as Sixth Uncle was gasping with absolute fury, I reached over and snatched the pole out of his hands. Perfectly calm, I fixed my eyes on Li Bao. There was even the ghost of a smile playing on my lips. "Li Bao, it is just me left in my house. One man, one belly, 0 family left to worry about. If I kill you today, worst thing is I go to prison, my life. I am ready to bet it. Do not believe me? Let us find out." I took the pole and dragged it hard across the dirt, cutting a clean line in the ground. "Cross that line today, and I beat you dead right here. Don't believe me? Try it." I didn't get angry. I didn't shout. I just said it in the flattest, quietest tone, one word at a time. Li Bao froze up completely. He looked down at that line in the dirt. Then he looked up at my eyes. And in that moment, I knew he didn't see rage in my eyes. Didn't see excitement. Didn't see a single trace of heat at all. Just a bottomless, dead, calm stillness. The exact kind of coldness that treated another man's life like nothing more than a weed. He got it. This kid meant business. He wasn't bluffing at all. He would actually do it. Li Bao stood there frozen for a long, heavy moment. His foot never even lifted to cross that boundary. I stared him down without blinking, pole gripped tight, still as stone. In the end, he was the one who broke. "Fine, Shanha, you really got a pair." His voice was loud but completely hollow. He was scrambling for any tiny exit he could find. "Just you wait. I hope you never get a wife your entire damn life." That last line is what did it. That went straight for the tinder spot in my chest, because it wasn't just some curse under his breath. That was an out-and-out curse on my name. I flung the pole away, whipped the rifle off my back, and brought it around in one smooth motion. Bolt chamber, aim perfectly clean. I had it all figured out in my head, totally cold and clear. Beat a man to death with a stick. Manslaughter at worst. Do a few years in jail and you are out. The village chief would help hush it up. He would keep Kawasan's name clean. But shoot a man with a rifle? That was a whole different animal. The law wasn't fully written down yet back then. But from the 50s onward, there had been a criminal code in draft. Deliberate murder that was a life for a life. Even so, right in that second, I was really and truly considering it. Shanha, put the gun down. Do not do it. Fourth Grandpa nearly jumped out of his skin. He lunged forward to wrestle the rifle away. He was a man who had crawled off a battlefield. He could literally smell the killing intent on me, and he knew it was real. But my arm might as well have been cast iron. He pulled with everything he had, and still couldn't budge me a single inch. Unable to get the weapon down, Fourth Grandpa completely lost it. He threw himself in front of my muzzle and started screaming at Li Bao at full volume. "Li Bao, you dumb son of a, what the hell did you have to provoke him for? He is young and hot-blooded. What is he not capable of? You really are just sick of living, aren't you?" The instant Li Bao heard that bolt snap home, his legs turned to noodles. He gulped hard, spun around, and tried to run away. Bang! I sent a shot straight up into the sky. "Take one step and I will kill you." The gunshot slammed, everyone's ears ringing, and the sharp stink of gunpowder rolled over the whole crowd. That single blast broke Li Bao and his little pack of hoodlums right down the middle. They dropped to their knees in the dirt, totally stunned. As for Fifth Auntie, her face went white as paper. She didn't even dare to breathe. "Shanha, I was completely wrong. I was just running my mouth back there. Please don't take it to heart. I will never do it again. I am not even human. Just treat me like a passing fart and let me go." Li Bao dropped to his knees with a heavy thud. A dog's life beats a hero's death, especially for a local bully who caved the very second things got real. I knew his type all too well. You could not show a guy like him even an ounce of mercy. Give him an inch today, tomorrow he'd take a mile. "Li Bao, this is the first and last time. I stared him down. You ever mess with me again, you better watch your back when you close your eyes at night. Now get out." Just like that, the tables had completely turned. Now I was the one making the threats. Yes, 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 I'll never do it again. I am leaving right now." Li Bao scrambled out of there on all fours. That pathetic sight was easily the most satisfying thing I had seen all day. After dealing with him, I turned to face the pack of loafers standing around. Before I could even open my mouth, they took off running out of my yard like their pants were catching fire. Finally, I strolled right over to Fifth Auntie, nice and slow. "So, Fifth Auntie, how about I cut you a couple pounds of meat to take home?" Just moments ago, she would have jumped up cheering and probably complained that 2 pounds wasn't enough. But right now, those words sounded to her like the devil himself whispering in her ear. She scrambled up off the dirt and forced a smile that looked uglier than crying. "No, no need for that, Shanha. Your fifth uncle is waiting at home for me to cook dinner. Come over for a meal sometime soon, you hear?" With that, she bolted, too terrified that if she moved any slower, I would blow her away with a gunshot. I spat at their retreating backs. Bunch of goddamn cowards. Once everyone had finally cleared out, Fourth Grandpa let out a long, heavy breath. His whole back was completely drenched in sweat. He clapped me hard on the shoulder, his tone impossible to read. "You little wild man. Was Li Bao really worth throwing your entire life away for?" I immediately put on a grin as if that cold-blooded killer from moments ago had never been me at all. "Fourth Grandpa, guys like Li Bao only respect force. If I had not put him in his place today, he would just come back to cause more trouble tomorrow." Sixth Uncle chimed in right beside me. He agreed with Fourth Uncle. "Shanha isn't reckless like that. He was just trying to scare Li Bao." Fourth Grandpa didn't respond. The old man just swept those sharp eyes over Sixth Uncle and shook his head inwardly. It took me a while to understand what that look meant. Guys who had never lived through a hail of bullets were just too green. They couldn't smell death in the air. Fourth Grandpa had faced life and death more times than he could ever count. He could tell at a glance if a man was bluffing or truly ready to kill. That murderous chill I had radiated a moment ago, it was not an act. It was the cold, absolute focus of a hunter locked onto his prey, dead set on the kill. But I didn't give him time to dwell on it. I quickly changed the subject. "Fourth Grandpa, Sixth Uncle don't just stand around, take 50 pounds of meat home each. There is an unwritten rule among us hunters. Helping someone haul their game down the mountain is a massive favor. Taking 8 or 10 pounds of meat as thanks is fair, but 50? Sixth Uncle froze on the spot. He told me no way, they just lent a hand. They didn't deserve that much meat. He waved his hands frantically, his weathered face flushing bright red. I had risked my neck for this boar. He couldn't stomach taking such a huge cut. Fourth Grandpa, though, wasn't nearly as fussy. He walked right over and gave the massive beast a pat. He figured this pig had to weigh at least 500 or 600 pounds alive. Once you drain the blood and gut it, there is still over 400 pounds of clean meat. Shanha couldn't finish it all if he ate it every single meal. He drew the hunting knife from his belt and walked a half circle around the boar. Then, with a quick flick of his eyes, the blade came down clean and fast. Its sharp edge weaved right past the bones, perfectly following the natural grain of the muscle. In no time, he separated 2 big slabs of well-marbled meat. He hefted them once and set them aside right around 100 pounds. An old hunter's hands were a scale of their own. He told me to deal with the rest of this meat fast. Give some away and salt the rest. Fourth grandpa pushed the meat towards sixth uncle and turned back to me. It was barely autumn, still warm out. Fresh meat spoils in a couple days. I told him I understood. After seeing the two elders off, I shut the gate and grabbed that heavy butcher knife again. The entire yard was thick, with the heavy smell of blood mixed with fresh meat. It was drawing a swarm of buzzing flies. But I already had everything planned out in my head. Keep 100 pounds for myself. Send 100 to Brother Schwanju's family. Then split the rest among the neighbors who helped me through my darkest days. I was hunched over cutting the meat, sweat dripping right down my forehead, when a timid figure peeked in through the gate. It was a girl. She was pale in that unhealthy way that comes from never seeing the sun. Her frame was so thin a stiff breeze could knock her over. She wore her hair in two thick black braids, though the ends were a little dry and yellowed. Her head was down. Both hands clutched desperately at the hem of her shirt, pacing at the gate without daring to step inside. I looked up and recognized her immediately. I called out to Sister Shioli, telling her to come inside. I was actually about to bring some meat over to her place. It was already portioned out. This was Auntie Sue's daughter, Xiao Shioli. I had figured Auntie Sue would send her son, but instead, she sent this shy young girl in person. My greeting only made her more nervous. She shuffled in with tiny little steps, her voice as thin as a mosquito's whine. She told me her mom said they couldn't take my things for nothing. She offered to wash my clothes and tidy up the house for me. She started rolling up her sleeves, fabric already washed thin and pale, revealing two pitifully skinny wrists. I asked Sister Shioli what she was doing. Half laughing and half exasperated, I hurried over to stop her. It was just 2 pounds of meat. Basically nothing. I told her as long as she didn't mind the size, she shouldn't stand on ceremony with me. At my words, 2 red clouds shot up on her deathly pale cheeks, just like peach blossoms falling on snow. She was so flustered her 2 index fingers twisted completely around each other, nearly tying themselves into a knot. Seeing her like that somehow softened something inside me. I quickly grabbed a cut of meat off the block, ran a straw cord through it, and pressed it right into her hand. I told her there was absolutely no need. Just take this and get home, her mom was waiting. I knew exactly how things were at her house. Her father died on the battlefield, leaving Auntie Sue completely alone to raise her, a younger sister, and 2 younger brothers. Life was incredibly hard. Looking at how malnourished she was, I doubted she ever got a full meal on most days. She thanked me softly. Then she finally worked up the courage to steal a quick, shy glance at me. Like a startled fawn, she clutched the meat and ran off without looking back. I stared after her for a second, unable to hold back a laugh. Girls in this era really were pure in the absolute sweetest way. I didn't waste any more time getting the meat delivered. I hoisted that 100-pound slab onto my shoulder and headed straight for Brother Schwanju's house. Before leaving, I called out to Shan, crouched by the gate. Watch the house, I told him. Anyone comes barging in, bite them. Shan tilted his head up and barked twice loud and strong, like he was taking his orders. Brother Schwanju's place was the one stop I absolutely had to make. Schwanju was my sworn brother. 4 years ago, that exact same giant boar had gored his leg clean through. Left him bedridden and crippled ever since. Today, I finally killed that beast. He was the very first person I wanted to tell. The second I stepped through the gate, a tiny figure came flying at me like an absolute whirlwind. Uncle Sha. It was Schwanju's daughter, Xiaoling. The little girl's eyes locked onto the meat on my shoulder, and she squealed. Meat? So much meat. She was practically drooling. Hearing the shout, my sister-in-law, Chinu, hurried right out of the main room. When her eyes fell on that massive slab of blood-red meat resting on my shoulder, she froze completely. Her hand flew up to cover her mouth. Shanha? What kind of meat is this? Why so much? Chinu had never seen this much meat piled together in her entire life. In an age where a full stomach was a rare luxury, fresh meat was just an unreachable dream. Since her husband became disabled, she'd probably forgotten what meat even tasted like. Sis, it's wild boar, I said. A big tusker. I grinned and set the meat down steady on the cutting board with a heavy thud. It was a massive haul. I brought over 100 pounds. Take your time with it. Whatever you cannot finish, just smoke it so it keeps for a long time. Chinu finally snapped out of her daze. She grabbed a clean towel and stood up on her tiptoes, gently wiping the heavy sweat off my forehead and neck. Then she turned and poured me a big bowl of cool water. When I took it from her, my palm accidentally brushed against her freezing fingertips. Her face flushed bright red in an instant. She yanked her hand back fast, like she had just been shocked. I didn't think much of it. I was completely parched. Lifted the bowl and drained the whole thing in one single go. Ah! I let out a satisfied sigh, glanced over, and saw her staring at me, blushing hard. Sis, what is wrong? Your face is so red. She stuttered. I am fine. She quickly ducked her head and turned away. I didn't dig into it. I just tossed out my excuse. I told her I was checking on Brother Schwanju, then pushed through the curtain into the inner room. The heavy smell of herbal medicines and stale sickbed air hit me at once. Brother Schwanju lay completely gaunt on the Kong, staring blankly up at the wooden beams overhead. When he heard my heavy footsteps, he turned his head with serious effort. Seeing me, a tiny spark of light finally crept into those dull eyes. "Shanha, did you get something?" His voice was totally hoarse and disbelieving. This was, after all, my very first solo hunt up in the mountains. I walked to the edge of the Kong, lowered my voice, and spaced out every single word. "Brother, that beast. The one that gored your leg. That massive tusker, I killed it." The words hit the man like a literal thunderclap. His eyes snapped wide open, and a sudden surge of strength burst from that lifeless body. He struggled to sit up, jarring his old wound and grimacing in sharp pain. "Shanha, say that again." I hurried right over to steady him and propped him up against the wall. Then I told him the whole story from start to finish. How I had gone deep into the mountains. How Shan tracked the boar down for me. And how I finally brought the monster down. As he listened, this tough man in his 20s began to weep. Hot tears rolled down his hollow, sunken cheeks. All that dark resentment, the bitterness, the sheer pain that had been crushing his chest for so long. It all just came pouring out at once. He cried out like a totally helpless child. After weeping for a while, he wiped his face and suddenly grabbed my hand hard. But then his eyes slowly dimmed, taking on a hint of something completely dead. "Shanha, I am begging you. If I pass, you have to be with your sister-in-law. Help me raise Linger," and shouting. My heart lurched hard. A terrible chill shot straight up from the soles of my feet. I hadn't realized his mental state had already sunk this incredibly far. I gripped his rough hand back and pleaded urgently. "Brother, what nonsense are you talking? Your leg just means you can't do heavy manual labor. Give me a few days. I will carve you a proper crutch. You'll be able to hobble out to the fields with zero problem. And if you cannot work the land, you can weave straw sandals and baskets at home to earn us some money. Do not even dare to think about anything foolish. Do you hear me?" The cold reality that he had started thinking about ending his own life sent a massive wave of urgency right through me. I had to hunt more, earn money faster, enough to keep this entire family fed and comfortably clothed without any worry. Only then could I completely stamp out the dark death wish taking root in his heart. We talked in hushed tones for a while longer. Seeing him finally tire out, I got up to leave. Stepping out of the inner room, I found Chinu standing right at the doorway. Her eyes were rimmed bright red. She had clearly heard everything. I sighed. "Sis, keep a close eye on Brother Schwanju these next few days. I am worried about him." She simply nodded hard. Back at my own empty earthen house, I shut the heavy door behind me. Then I immediately gave the system a mental command. "System, take 2 hunting points from today's haul and directly add them to my strength stat." That 500-pound boar today had taken 3 of us taking turns just to haul it back. I was completely wiped out. An 18-year-old strapping guy like me could not even outmatch 60-year-old fourth grandpa in raw strength. That was just plain wrong. For a hunter, stamina and raw strength were the only coins that bought your life out in the mountains. System has successfully allocated points for the host. Physical enhancement will wrap up after a deep sleep. The host will feel those major changes then, confirmed. I pushed it out of my mind, tied each meat portion with straw cord and made my rounds door to door. These people helped bury my parents. Back when I was starving to death, they were the ones handing me scraps of food or tossing me a spare copper coin. A drop of kindness buys you a whole spring in return. That is how I operate. Naturally, I did not forget the village chief. I walked up to him. "Great-grandpa, I bagged a massive tusker up there today. Cut 10 pounds just for you. Come try it." Xiao Yin was my grandfather's cousin, and his word was absolute law around here. He sat under the old locust tree, pulling hard on his dry tobacco pipe. He squinted through a slow ring of smoke. "You little rascal. Word of you dropping that tusker already blew all the way down here. What is this? Playing the loyal great-grandson now to bribe an old man. Young punks, always up to no good." I stopped him. "Great-grandpa, that is not fair. You and my grandfather were blood. Just a grandson showing respect to his elder. How is that a bribe?" He chuckled. "Your mouth gets slicker by the day." He actually looked pleased. "Fine, drop the meat and scram." I gave a sheepish laugh, slapped the meat on his table, and plopped onto a stool instead. "Great-grandpa, I used Brother Schwanju's old rifle when I went up into the mountains today. You little brat. Schwanju is crippled now. What the hell does he need a gun for?" He saw right through me. I just rubbed my hands together and laid all my cards on the table. I had my sights set on the 3 Type 56 semi-automatic rifles recently issued to the forestry station. Brand new hardware for civilian life. Extremely rare. Normally, only official cadres and forest patrol teams ever got to touch them. And his son, Shower Lee, happened to be their party secretary. I leaned in. "I want to borrow one of Uncle Erlee's Type 56s. Xiaoying's mustache shot up. His eyes nearly bulged out. What kind of nonsense are you spouting, boy? Those are strictly regulated. Who the hell is going to lend one to you? All right. I was just asking, forget it then. I sulked a bit. Nothing ventured, nothing gained anyway. The old man just barked a laugh at my face, turned and vanished into the back room. He returned lugging a Type 38 rifle and 3 ammo packs. Since you are such a loyal rascal, take it. It is yours. I hugged that rifle and practically skipped out of his yard. 10 pounds of meat for a gun. Damn right this trip was worth it. Next morning, sky was barely light, and I was dead asleep when Xiao Yan's sharp panic barking ripped me right out of bed. I threw on my clothes, stepped into the cold, and caught a hesitant girl's voice, calling from beyond the front gate. Shanha, are you awake? I forced a yawn and dragged open the creaky wooden gate. Standing there, of all people, was Xiao Shioli. A bamboo basket hung on her arm, completely covered by a neat blue cloth. Sister Shioli, the sun is not even up. Why are you here? Shanha, my mom steamed some cornmeal cakes for you. She kept her eyes down, totally embarrassed. I gave her family 2 pounds of meat yesterday. Auntie Sue really struggled with favors. Do not just stand out there. Come inside. She came this early just to dodge the village gossip. At this hour, nobody else was even awake yet. She nodded and dropped the basket. I went out to wash my face, but when I came back inside, she was already smoothing out my messy bedding. Whoa, Sister Shioli, why are you folding my blankets? Her face flushed bright red all over again. It is nothing. I saw you had some dirty clothes lying around. I will wash them for you. Before I could stop her, she grabbed my unwashed clothes off the kang and hauled them outside. Watching her work, something shifted deep inside my chest. Sister Shioli knew how to keep a house running. Whoever married her would have a damn good life. Sister Shioli, I am heading back into the mountains soon, I called out. I want to bag some yearlings this time. That massive tusker meat is tough. It is just too tough to eat. Her shyness faded, and she threw me a thoroughly exasperated look. You have fresh meat and you still complain. Wait, going back into the mountains again? Xiao Shioli stopped dead mid-scrub. Her hands hovered right over the basin. She looked up, eyes wide with pure alarm, staring right through me. I completely understood the shock. To these villagers, mountain hunting was basically tying your own severed head to your belt. That is why a hunter who bagged big game rested for 10 days or a month. Partly to shake off that lingering air of death. Partly to let the beasts forget human scent. But I could not wait. Yeah, I grinned. That big tusker from yesterday is way too tough to chew. Today I am heading back in to track down some young boars. Young meat is tender as anything. If I bag one, I will bring some straight to your place. Soon as I said it, Sister Shioli turned bright red, redder than the dawn sky. She buried her head, staring hard at the clothes, soaking in the wash basin. Her hands scrubbed away furiously like she was trying to beat that poor shirt into absolute submission. Girls back then had hearts as clear as a mountain spring. Not a single little ripple could ever stay hidden. That little half-joking line of mine landed way heavier on her than I cared to admit. She finished the washing up fast, then got up on her tiptoes and hung every piece on the yard line. Soon as she was done, she stole a quick glance at me from the corner of her eye. Her voice was thin as a mosquito. I really need to go home now. The morning sky was already getting bright. Every household would be waking up soon. People out and about. A young unmarried girl walking in my yard would spark rumors neither of us could explain away. All right. Just wait for my victorious return tonight. Sister Shioli paused at the gate. She turned back around, her face lined with genuine worry. Shanha, be careful up in those mountains. Coming back empty-handed is perfectly fine. Just do not push yourself. I nodded with a big smile. Do not worry. With Sister Shioli caring about me this much, of course I will not push it. Soon as I said it, her face burned bright red all over again. She snapped, who cares about you? Then she whirled around and sprinted off. Watching that bashful figure retreat into the distance left my heart totally tumbling. I really need to save up money fast, I muttered to myself. Then I headed inside to eat, forcing down the last few tough, dry chunks of boar meat from last night until my belly was packed. I gave Cheyenne a little too, just a few quick bites to line his stomach. Hunting dogs hitting the mountains, follow the classic, keep them mostly hungry rule. An empty belly fuels their hunting drive. Really sharpens up their nose and ears. It was early autumn now, and the mountain game was gorging itself for the winter freeze. Everything was fat and full-bodied. Absolute prime hunting season. I did the math in my head. With just a little more luck, running into a black bear would mean striking absolute gold. A bear was basically a walking treasure trove. Just a single bear gallbladder, dried and sold off, easily matched 2 full months of a factory worker's wages. I cleaned the rifle, tucked my butcher knife into my belt, packed some flatbread, and topped off the flask. Then I whistled for Cheyenne and headed out. But the exact second I reached the old locust tree, at the edge of the village, I spotted a shadow leaning against the trunk. He cradled a rifle in his arms, watching me with this ambiguous half-smile. Huh? Fourth Grandpa, are you heading into the mountains today too? It was Fourth Grandpa Xiao Junyang. His gaunt face broke into a heavily wrinkled smile. Been waiting for you. Back when I first started hunting, I was hooked just the same. Wanted to go straight back the very next day. You bagged a huge tusker on your first trip out. No way you are getting that itch out of your system easily. I laughed a bit sheepishly. No wonder people say the old folks are clever foxes. Fourth Grandpa was practically reading my mind. Come on, we team up today. He grabbed the wooden sled and started pulling. Let me do that, Fourth Grandpa. Xiao Junyang was 59, turning 60 after the winter. There was zero chance I was letting him drag the sled. Plus, the system handed me 2 strength points yesterday, and I really wanted to test them out. Do not underestimate those 2 points. For a grown man, 2 extra points translated to a massive leap in raw strength. I threw my shoulder hard into the sled harness. Damn, the thing really was noticeably lighter now. Let us go, Fourth Grandpa, I called back. A flicker of surprise crossed Xiao Junyang's clouded but sharp eyes. Then came an approving nod. 1 old man, 1 young man, and a hunting dog. Together we stepped back into the Io Mountains. Shan, remember the exact scent of that massive tusker from yesterday? I patted his head. Let us track down some of his kin today. Cheyenne seemed to get it. He barked twice, then stopped dead in his tracks. That massive head of his tilted straight up, his nose sniffing hard at the freezing morning air. Fourth Grandpa saw this from behind, and his eyes went totally wide. His feet literally forgot how to walk. Most hunting dogs kept their heads low, sniffing the dirt for tracks. But Cheyenne was lifting his head, actively reading the wind. Fourth Grandpa had lived nearly 60 years, and only ever heard of a dog doing that in old-timer legends. Good heavens, he muttered. Cheyenne has changed so much. Shanha, from now on you treat this dog just like your own flesh and blood. Remember this. A good hunting dog is a hunter's second life. About 10 minutes later, Cheyenne seemed to catch a scent. He suddenly swerved and shot off like an absolute arrow. Fourth Grandpa and I bolted right after him. The mountain path was brutally rough, but we kept a fast pace for a solid half hour. Fourth Grandpa was getting up there in years and started panting heavily. I stopped to wait for him. Damn it, I am old, completely useless, he sighed. Fourth Grandpa, at your age pulling stamina like this? Don't call yourself useless, your grandson here is getting ashamed. Haha, you sweet-mouthed rascal. What man ever wants to admit he is old? Right as we caught our breath, Shaun started barking. He was calling us. When a hunting dog barks, it means he found game, and it is close. Fourth Grandpa sprang up quick, follow him. We tracked the barking for about 10 minutes, pushing right through a patch of dry yellow grass. When I parted the stalks, a mud wallow sat dead ahead. Lying inside were 6 wild boars, 1 big tusker, 3 wainers, and 2 yearlings. Shaun had already circled back to me in total silence, tail wagging like a rattle drum. He wore this proud little expression. Shh, I dropped my voice to almost nothing. Shaun, not a single sound. Fourth Grandpa and I exchanged a look, no words needed. He signaled with one hand. The right side was his, the left side was mine. 1 old man, 1 kid. We both nodded at the exact same time and silently raised our Type 38 rifles, taking aim at those wild boars less than 200 meters away. The next second, completely wordless, we squeezed our triggers together. Bang, bang. 2 shots ripped straight through the air. 1 wiener and 1 yearling dropped exactly where they stood. I racked the bolt in a flash, drawing a bead on the boars, scrambling in every direction. Bang! Another shot, and a second wiener hit the dirt. On the other side, Fourth Grandpa fired again, and the last wiener went down. The big tusker and the remaining yearling had already vanished. Haha, Shanha, youth really does win out. You are fast. Fourth Grandpa came out of his daze. My speed had beaten his by a full 3 seconds. Later, he told me over and over in the army that kind of speed would make me prime sniper material. Fourth Grandpa, you were not half bad yourself. What an unbelievable shot. Dropping a tough-skinned yearling with a single bullet was not easy at all. That thick coat of bristles, plus a hard coating of mud, was practically armor. To kill one in a single shot, you had to hit the head or the heart dead on. I played it completely safe and aimed for the head. But Fourth Grandpa sent both his shots straight through the heart. That kind of marksmanship. He absolutely had to be a sharpshooter back in his army days. All right, enough flattery. Let us get over there and clean them up. I patted Shango on stand guard. Shan bounded over, ran a circle around the 4 boars, sniffed each one thoroughly, confirmed 0 threats, then barked twice. Letting the hunting dog check first was a core survival rule bred right into our bones. Fourth Grandpa, this is a massive haul. 3 wieners and a yearling. I was grinning ear to ear. Congratulations, host. Successfully killed 2 juvenile wild boars. Reward 2 hunting points. The system voice sounded off. I quickly did the math in my head. The big tusker from earlier had given me 3 points. I spent 2 on strength, leaving 1. Now with 2 more, I was back to 3 total. I drew my butcher knife, then bled, skinned, and gutted them. In just over half an hour, the messy work was mostly done. I tossed the yearling liver and heart to Shanha as a reward, then hung the rest of the innards on nearby tree branches as an offering to the mountain god. Just as we finished up, a violent bear roar suddenly echoed from deep inside the forest. My heart lurched. Fourth Grandpa shot straight to his feet, rifle chambered and up in his hands. Shanha actually tucked his tail and dropped to the cold ground, trembling. Even the absolute best hunting dog instinctively cowers at a bear roar. That is the heavy pressure of the top of the food chain. Then another roar. Not good. Fourth Grandpa completely changed his expression. From the sound of it, there is not just a black bear out there. There is a brown bear too. A black bear had that distinct crescent of white fur right on its chest. Small, agile. A brown bear was incredibly massive by comparison. A full-grown one could easily fight off a tiger. And here's the kicker. Black bears were completely on the brown bear menu. If a brown bear caught a black bear, it was always a guaranteed kill. Those two roars almost certainly meant a black bear had run into a brown bear. Shanha, let us get out of here. Quick! Fourth Grandpa knew exactly how terrifying a hunting brown bear could be. But my eyes just lit up. I grabbed his arm. Fourth Grandpa, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. We hide. Wait for the brown bear to kill the black bear. Then we ambush the brown bear together. 2 bears in one single day. When will we ever get another shot like this? This is the classic mantis stalking the cicada, with the oriole waiting right behind. Fourth Grandpa splashed freezing water right on that idea. Boy, has a little success completely gone to your head? A bear has an unbelievably sharp nose unless it is holed up sleeping in a den. It will smell you long before you ever get close. Fourth Grandpa, look, there is a mud wallow right here. My mind clicked. We slather on the mud and sneak right in. Mud seals in human scent. Once it dries into a hard crust, our smell is locked away completely. Even a bear 30 meters off would not catch a whiff. I have to say, the second I suggested it, Fourth Grandpa was definitely moved too. 2 bears. He had hunted his entire life, but only ever took down a single black bear. And that one kill made him the top marksman in Kawan village. Well, Fourth Grandpa, one word. Are we doing this or what? Xiao Jun Liang gritted his teeth. The man was almost 60. This could be his absolute last chance in life to hunt a damn it. You really think I have less guts than a green kid like you? Let's do this. I was absolutely thrilled. Squatting down beside him, I started smearing mud from head to toe, not even missing our shoes. Good thing it was autumn and not blazing hot. Plus, that brown bear was fully fixated on the black bear. We had timing, terrain, and guts on our side. Once coated in mud, I told Shanha to guard the pig carcasses. 2 muddy figures, one old, one young, crept straight toward the roars. Less than 20 minutes later, my sharp eyes spotted it. The black bear was way up in a towering tree. Down at the base, a monstrously huge brown bear paced back and forth. It was agitated, slamming its massive fan-sized paws against the wood in pure frustration. Adult brown bears have thick, dull claws. They simply cannot climb trees anymore, especially a massive tree like this that took several people just to fully embrace. It was stuck just glaring upward. But black bears? They are natural-born climbers. Old hunters always say if you run into a brown bear in the wild, climbing a tree might save your life. Meet a black bear, though, and you never climb. You will never outclimb it. That black bear had already scaled right to the very top of the canopy. It was practically a sitting duck. Even falling from that height would steal half its life. I basically had it in the bag already. The real challenge was that brown bear at the base. That beast had incredibly thick hide and tough flesh. From a distance, our Type 38 rifles might not even punch through to a vital spot. And if a single shot didn't drop it outright, that monster's speed and blind rage would be totally terrifying. We just exchanged a glance. Fourth Grandpa signaled with his hand, forget the one up in the tree for now. Focus all of our firepower on the brown bear down below. He pointed at his own head, then at me, and finally patted the spot right over his heart. He was simply dividing up the work. I take the head, he takes the heart. Double insurance. If I missed, his heart shot would still put the beast. If he missed, my shot would finish the job. Using the brush for cover, we crawled another dozen meters. We finally stopped at a perfect spot, exactly 50 meters from the brown bear. I laid completely flat on the cool earth, cheek pressed tight against the icy rifle stock. My eyes narrowed to tiny slits, fitting the brown bear's dark silhouette right into the sights. My breath grew long and shallow, feeling like it had just stopped altogether. The moment wasn't quite right yet. The brown bear was still too worked up, still pacing. The perfect time to fire was when it completely lost patience and settled quietly beneath the tree, locked in a tense waiting game with the black bear. Both the old man and I had enough patience to match that bear. A few unwary mosquitoes buzzed right by our ears, but neither of us even blinked. Fourth Grandpa cut a sharp glance at me from the corner of his eye, and a sudden wave of shock hit him. Here was this kid on his very first real ambush hunt for a bear, lying there completely dead still, almost like a corpse. Not even the faintest little muscle tremor. This was some kind of bone-deep talent. The boy was truly born for this life. Half an hour later, the brown bear actually seemed to tire out, finally leaning against the giant tree trunk to rest. We exchanged a knowing look. The moment had finally arrived. The whole world just seemed to freeze. All that existed in my eyes was the brown bear's head. 3, 2, 1. Right on fourth Grandpa's whispered count. We pulled our triggers at the exact same instant. Bang, bang. The brown bear let out a truly violent howl. Massive body jerked hard, then completely collapsed like a falling mountain of flesh, kicking up a thick cloud of dust and dead leaves. I didn't pause for a heartbeat. My right hand instantly snapped right to the bolt and yanked it back. The smoking hot casing leapt out with a tiny wisp of blue smoke. Then I rammed the bolt forward, chambering a fresh round. The whole motion flowed like pure water. Twisting at the waist, I sprang right up, violently whipping the barrel skyward. Without even really aiming, running purely on raw hunter's instinct, I put my sights dead on the trembling black shape high in the canopy. Bang. That black bear in the tree didn't even get time to scream. Its body just completely seized up. Wait, was that a total miss? A quick flicker of doubt crossed fourth Grandpa's rugged face. But before any words came out, the black bear dropped straight down from the towering treetop, like a heavy sack with its strings slashed. Thud. A heavy, sickeningly dull sound echoed as the black bear slammed hard into the dirt. It twitched twice, then went completely still. Even if my bullet had just grazed its skin, falling from tens of meters up was more than enough to kill it. Shanha finishing shots. Fourth Grandpa barked the order in a low voice. Hunter's rule. A dying big beast's final thrash can easily take out anyone who gets careless. Even though the system's familiar ping had already chimed in my head, I obeyed without any hesitation. I pumped 2 more clean rounds into the carcass. Congratulations, host. Successfully killed 1 adult brown bear. Reward, 6 hunting points. Congratulations, host. Successfully killed 1 extremely rare black bear. Reward, 7 hunting points. The second I saw those 2 specific words, rare black bear, my pupils shrank. Rare. That meant this thing had to be ancient. And with an incredibly old black bear, the odds of finding a gold gallbladder shot way up. My heart was absolutely pounding. Bear gallbladder was incredibly precious medicine. But a golden translucent one. That was the absolute peak, worth an absolute fortune. Right below that came the black iron variant. The lowest grade was just the basic rapeseed gallbladder. But even the worst rapeseed kind fetched 30 yuan at the supply co-op, a factory worker's entire monthly wage. An iron one easily pulled double that amount. And a gold one could hit a staggering 120 yuan. Back then, that kind of cash could completely rewrite a family's fate. We waited 5 whole minutes. Ensured both beasts stayed dead still. Then crept closer. Both were stone paw. We did it. We actually took down 2 bears. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I pumped my fist, almost leaping right off the ground. In the truest sense, this was my very first bear hunt. I had only gone into the mountains twice, and on trip number 2, I dropped 2 bears. Fourth Grandpa was practically vibrating too. He had hunted his entire life, and only once back in his youth had he been lucky enough to kill a black bear. This time was pure blind luck. Stumbling on a brown bear and a black bear tearing each other apart, absolute jackpot. Shanha, quick, open him up. Let's see what kind of prize we got. Layer by layer, I sliced into the black hide. Extracting it properly took skill, and honestly, I was clueless. Fourth Grandpa leaned in close, his eyes bulging wide. Well, I'll be damned, you lucky little rascal. At that, my mouth instantly turned down. What? Just iron. I was really hoping, since this was a rare black bear, we would walk away with a gold one. Fourth Grandpa burst out laughing and smacked me hard on the back. You ungrateful brat. Even seeing an iron one is rare as hell. This thing will fetch at least 70 yuan at the supply co-op. That is over 3 months of factory wages, and you still want more? I laughed, a bit sheepish, and quickly backpedaled. I never said I wasn't satisfied, just thought a golden one would be even better. Fourth Grandpa shot me a glare. Your greed is going to blind you. Any old beast that grows one of those is practically a mountain spirit. It would smell a human from 2 miles away and vanish. You would never even see it. Thinking about it, he was completely right. Bears like that could only be caught mid-winter while hibernating. Fourth Grandpa, we need to leave. If some other predator catches the scent, our luck might turn into a disaster. With 2 bear gallbladders tucked securely against my chest, I was too hyped to stand still. He just laughed. You brat. Where did that killer nerve of yours go? Relax. The scent of these 2 is enough to keep every wolf and jackal miles away. Unless another big paw shows up. Then his brow finally furrowed. But these 2 bears, how the hell do we even haul them back? Today's haul was simply staggering. 2 huge bears and 4 fat wild boars, all piled on the dirt like small hills. Even fourth grandpa, in an entire lifetime of hunting, had never seen a harvest quite like this. Our tiny sled could not even haul one bear, let alone all this meat. "Leave Shan with me," he said, "and run back to the village for backup." Boy, fourth grandpa waved his hand. "Every single one of your uncles and elders. Every last one. Get them all out here. Otherwise, we are never getting these treasures home before nightfall." I did the mental math. "Fourth grandpa, what if we skin the bears, chop the meat into chunks, and just make a few trips?" His eyes flew wide, cursing with a laugh. "Damn it, boy, you trying to work my old bones to death? What a lousy idea. We busted our humps to bag 2 entire bears, and we are not dragging them back in one piece. Where's the glory in that?" I instantly caught his drift. Like the old saying goes, getting rich without returning home is like walking in fine silk at night. We bagged 2 bears. If we didn't parade them into Kawan village completely intact, showing off for every man and boy on the street, what the hell was the point of hunting? Fourth grandpa's title as Kawan village's top marksman was earned with a single black bear, all those years ago. Add these 2 to the tally and he becomes a living golden legend. "All right, fourth grandpa, I get it." I slapped my thigh. "You take it easy here. I will run my legs off and be right back." I wasn't entirely at ease about it. I called Shan back from chewing on the boar innards, pointing sternly toward the old man. "Shan, you listen to fourth grandpa, you hear me?" The dog tilted his head up and barked twice, tail spinning like a windmill. I sucked in a sharp breath of freezing air, spun on my heel, and bolted toward Kawan village. I ran with everything I had, never daring to stop once. Leaving a man pushing 60 all alone in the deep mountains, flanked by 2 blood-soaked bear carcasses, was basically tossing him into a wolf den. After over half an hour of sprinting, my lungs burning and ready to burst, I finally caught sight of the chimney. With smoke rising from the village, I charged straight to 6th Uncle Xiao Jiangwo's house and started hammering on the door. "6th Uncle, open up." Xiao Jiangwo grabbed the shoulder pole from behind the door, shoved his feet into his shoes, and stormed out looking ready to kill. "What is going on, Shanha? Is that son of a Loa giving you trouble again? Come here. 6th Uncle will handle this." Seeing him so ready to fight for me really warmed my heart. Panting hard, I shook my head. "It is not Lai Bao. Fourth grandpa and I just went hunting up in the mountains today." Before I could even finish, Xiao Jiangwo heard the word hunting, and his face went ghost white. He dropped the pole with a clatter and grabbed my arm, trying to drag me outside. His voice shook. "Shanha, spit it out. What happened to fourth uncle? Is he hurt? Did you run into something big?" He shook me so hard my head spun. I finally caught my breath and yelled at him to stop jumping to crazy conclusions. "What I am trying to say is we bagged 2 bears. 2 of them. They are way too big to haul back alone. Round up my uncles and get everybody. We need men to carry those bears out." The second those words left my mouth, Xiao Jiangwo froze dead in his tracks. He stared at me like I was a freak. He even reached up and felt my forehead. "Nope, completely normal. I was not delirious." "Wait, Shanha, you are not messing with your 6th uncle right now? Those are actual bears. 2 of them. Years ago, he saw the single bear fourth grandpa brought down with his own 2 eyes. But that hunt took several strong men working together. Now I was standing here telling him that one almost 60-year-old man, a half-grown kid, and a dog had quietly taken down 2 massive bears. If that was not a tall tale, what was? Come on, 6th uncle. This is an absolute emergency. Why would I lie to you?" I stamped my foot in pure frustration. Fourth grandpa is still waiting up in the mountains. Every minute we waste puts him in danger. Hurry up. At this point, true or false, Xiao Jiangwo knew fourth uncle's safety had to come first. He turned and started hammering on doors, calling out for every man he could find. In no time flat, every able-bodied guy in the Xiao family mobilized. Counting Xiao Jiangwo, 10 heavy lifters came pouring into the street. They thought the Xiao family was under attack and showed up ready for a brawl. Every single one gripped a shoulder pole, a shovel, or a pickaxe. They looked ready for war. "Shanha, who the hell are we fighting?" one uncle yelled, running alongside me. I did not have the time to explain. I just waved my hand and barked out 4 simple words. "Mountains, carry bears out." This ragtag army marched straight toward Aleo Mountain, leaving the village women staring after us in total bewilderment. Dozens of them gathered at the village entrance, craning their necks and making wild guesses. Some swore fourth uncle must have died up there, and we were fetching the corpse. Others claimed we had bagged a legendary monster. Back then, there was not much entertainment, so gossips was the ultimate village pastime. By the time I led that gasping herd of uncles and cousins to the site, every one of those 10 men stood absolutely frozen in shock. Their tools nearly slipped right out of their hands. "Holy Mother of God, Shanha, you and fourth uncle actually bagged 2 massive bears." Xiao Jianyang stood there with his chin held high. Pure pride radiated from every single pore as he faced his nephews. Fourth grandpa was finally soaking in his big moment of glory. "Fourth uncle, you are incredible. still sharp as ever. The loud chorus of praise had fourth grandpa practically floating off the ground. I am getting old, he said modestly, but his smug grin gave it away. That brown bear Shanha and I took down together, but that black bear Shanha brought that one down all by himself. The back waves of the Yangtze River? How does that old saying go again? Suppressing a laugh, I coughed and helped him out. The back waves of the Yangtze River pushed the front waves forward. Right, that is it. That is exactly what I meant. When my uncles heard I killed the black bear alone, they went dead silent. Their faces screamed disbelief. This kid was only 18, barely had fuzz on his upper lip, and he bagged a bear? You little rascal. Just look at you now. Sixth Uncle Xiao Jiangwo walked right over and slapped me on the back. That massive palm nearly knocked me off my feet. Ow. Sixth Uncle, my scrawny frame cannot handle that kind of beating. That quick wise crack got the uncles roaring with laughter. Everyone in the hunting world knew the ugly truth. This game ran on pure natural talent, especially shooting. Anyone who ever fired a rifle knew the deal. A bad stance meant recoil alone would knock you flat. Never mind actually aiming. All right. Enough messing around, fourth grandpa said. Seeing all the attention shift to me, he cleared his throat and snatched back the spotlight. Cut down some thick branches, rig up the carrying frames, and let us haul these bears home. We have got to get off this mountain before dark. At his command, the 10 laborers instantly sprang into action. Counting me and fourth grandpa, that made 12 guys total. Working in rotating teams, we hauled those 2 bears, each pushing 1,000 pounds. It was brutal work, but not completely overwhelming. I dragged the sled with the wild boar at the front, while the others carried the bears in pairs behind me. Off we marched toward Cohen Village. As our bizarre procession hit the village limits, the gossiping women out front went dead silent almost at once. They stared at our group first, and then their eyes locked onto those 2 massive dark shapes. When they finally realized what those shapes actually were, every single one gasped in absolute horror. Heavens above, it cannot be. Those are black bears. One sharp-eyed woman screamed out, "Oh my God, 2 of them. And they are so huge. The Xiao family is going to be rich." Instantly, the village entrance exploded into pure chaos. People came sprinting over, shouting for their friends and families. The brave ones pushed right up, while the timid stood on tiptoes behind them. Everybody wanted a glimpse of the beast they had only ever heard about in local legends. The uncles purposely dropped the bears right in the most obvious spot at the entrance, those massive paws. Those brutal steel hook claws. The women couldn't stop clucking their tongues in sheer amazement. My God. Fourth uncle, you actually took down these monsters. You really are Koan Village's #1 gunman. Fourth grandpa stood right in the middle of the adoring crowd like a total star, soaking up all that heartfelt praise. It felt way better than throwing back 2 shots of hard liquor. He puffed out his chest and held his head high, savoring one of the absolute finest moments of his entire life. But just as he floated up on cloud 9, Sixth Uncle's booming voice cut in at the worst possible second. That brown bear was taken down by fourth uncle and Shanha together. He raised his voice on purpose and pointed right at the bigger black bear, speaking every single word clearly. But that black bear Shanha brought that one down entirely by himself. The instant those words left his mouth, the bustling crowd went completely dead silent. The proud smile froze on fourth grandpa's face. It felt like someone dumped a bucket of freezing water right over him. He nearly choked. He shot a glare at sixth uncle so fierce that even I felt kind of sorry for the guy. Seeing fourth grandpa looking both furious and deflated, I bit back a laugh and quickly stepped right in to smooth things over. Listen, aunties. If it were not for fourth grandpa's deep experience guiding me into the mountains and having my back, I'd never have gotten near those bears. Like they say, a family with an old-timer has a treasure in the house. Hearing that, fourth grandpa's stiff face softened up right away. The heavy anger in his chest melted into pure, undeniable satisfaction. See that? My grandson really knows how to speak. That sixth uncle honestly absolutely zero sense of tact. Sixth uncle's mouth twitched. He glared at me. You little brat. Only you know how to work people like that. I tried to praise you and you practically stabbed me in the back. Right then, the women totally snapped out of their shock and swarmed all around me. They were way more enthusiastic than they had been around fourth grandpa. Shanha, you've really made something of yourself. If your parents could see this from the grave, they would be incredibly proud. Shanha, my brother has a daughter. Pretty face, wide hips, really good for bearing kids. What do you say? Like your family is the only one with a niece. Shanha, do not listen to her. My niece has skin white as a green onion stem. You'll love her for sure. Bah, Sister Lou, your niece is what, 14? Butting in like this. So what? 4 more years and she can marry. What's wrong with getting engaged right now? The women were arguing so fiercely over matchmaking me that they nearly started throwing punches. And honestly, no wonder. My first big kill they could easily just chalk up to dumb luck. But this second time heading into the mountains coming back, with a black bear completely on my own, that was not something luck could ever explain away. Fourth Grandpa had hunted his entire life and only bagged a single black bear when he was young. That alone earned him the title of Cohen Village's #1 gunman for decades. Whichever lucky girl married me would be eating meat every single day. Someone in the crowd suddenly blurted out, "So does that mean from now on, Cohen Village's #1 gunman is going to be Shanha?" Instantly, over 100 pairs of eyes locked straight onto Fourth Grandpa. The title of Cohen Village's #1 gunman had belonged to Xiao Jun Liang for decades. Now that heavy mantle looked to be passing down to some green kid who barely had any hair on his upper lip. Everyone craned their necks, waiting to see whether Fourth Grandpa would totally explode in anger or pull rank as the village elder. But this time, anyone hoping for a dramatic show was bound to be pretty disappointed. That deeply weather-beaten face of his showed absolutely zero trace of displeasure. If anything, his smile just grew wider. He reached out a massive hand the size of a palm leaf fan and clapped it heavily right onto my shoulder, laughing heartily. This is what they mean when they say the back waves push the front waves forward. Each generation better than the last. The Xiao family has produced another truly top-notch hunter. His words rang out with total conviction. I understood exactly what Fourth Grandpa meant by that. If some guy with another surname had snatched away his title of #1 gunman, it would have been a massive slap in the face. But if I took it, that was completely different. I might not be his flesh and blood grandson, but I was still a Xiao. The exact same blood flowed through me. This wasn't losing face at all, a real passing of the torch. The Xiao family rifle finally had a worthy successor. Fourth Grandpa never had kids of his own. In his youth, he shouldered a rifle on the battlefield. By the time he got back, he was way too old to settle down. Seeing me shine out there, he practically looked at me like his real grandson. "All right, quit standing around." Fourth Grandpa waved his massive hand and bellowed at the top of his lungs. "Haul the bears to Shanha's yard, get moving." Everyone sprang right back into motion. By now, practically every man, woman, and child in Cohen Village had caught wind. Heads peeked out from behind every single window. Back at my rundown little courtyard, Fourth Grandpa quickly turned to Sixth Uncle, gave him a meaningful look. Sixth Uncle got the hint. He quickly called over a few of the burly Xiao brothers to guard the gate like watchdogs. You just never know what people are thinking. With a crowd this big, some jealous bastard might try to stir up trouble. Losing a few chunks of meat in the chaos was the least of our worries. If things actually went sideways, it would be an absolute nightmare. The crowd outside just kept growing denser. Even Sixth Uncle swallowed hard, his palms sweating. Then a thunderous roar echoed from the back. "What the hell are you all doing? Got nothing better to do? Are the fields fully weeded? Why are you crowding around here? Get the hell out. Scatter all of you." Village Chief Xiao Fing Yin had finally arrived. The exact moment he showed up, the crowd went dead silent. Sure, he had authority. But the real threat was the 7 militiamen right behind him, each packing a Type 38 rifle. Back then, authority alone just didn't cut it. You really needed muscle to back it up. With another furious roar, the mob clogging my doorway reluctantly started to disperse. The village chief stepped right into the yard. As worldly and seasoned as the guy was, one look at those 2 massive bear carcasses had him swearing out loud. "Holy hell, you little bastard. You really bagged some bears." Just yesterday, I visited his house and bragged I would bring back a bear to skin for his new coat. He figured it was just a young guy talking big. Never in a million years did he expect a bear lying in my yard today. "See, great uncle? I told you I could bag a bear. There is your coat material right there." I grinned, feeling pretty smug. His mouth twitched. He strode straight over to the bear carcass, squatted down, and gave it a solid poke. Back in his youth, he saw the black bear Fourth Grandpa brought in. But that one was a full size smaller than this monster. And the brown bear, its paw alone was bigger than his head. Not bad at all. He stood up, dusting off his hands. "All right, I just came to check it out and clear the mob for you. Can't have anything going wrong. I am the one in hot water as village chief. You just go on with your business." There were way too many eyes in the yard, so I kept my mouth shut. Once the crowd finally cleared out, I called our helpers together so we could start dividing up the meat. "Sixth Uncle, all of you," I cleared my throat. "Thank you for the hard work today. Without your help, I never could have dragged these beasts back. Everyone who pitched in today gets at least 2 pounds of bear meat and 2 pounds of pork. Take it home. Let the kids taste something decent." Hearing they would each get 4 pounds of meat, the mood absolutely skyrocketed. They dove straight into the work with total fire in their bellies. This was not your ordinary meat. The yearling boar had that perfect fat to lean marbling. And bear meat? That was something they never would have dared dream of eating. "Hey Shanha, next time you do something like this, do not forget your uncles." The men hoisted their heavy bundles, spouting praise like it was completely free. I just smiled and gave a nod. Once everyone left happy, I barred the courtyard gate from the inside with a heavy creak. Fourth Grandpa, let us talk about how to split these two bears. I rubbed my hands, totally serious. 2 gallbladders, plus the pelts and bones, they will bring in some serious cash. The second I said that, Fourth Grandpa's face went totally dark. He pointed straight at me and cursed. You little brat trying to calculate shares with me? I already have 1 foot in the grave. What the hell do I need a cut for? All I need is a bite to eat. Every single inch of those 2 bears belongs to you. At his age, money barely meant a thing. What really mattered to him was face. And today I gave him plenty of it. Fourth Grandpa, that just won't do. Business is business. I watched him try to walk off with only a small wild boar. I got pretty worked up. Leaning in, I lowered my voice. You took the risk with me. You hiked up that mountain, put in the real work, and stood guard. You absolutely have to take a share. Fourth Grandpa's eyes bulged out. His massive palm leaf hand nearly smacked me right on the head. Stop talking nonsense. What the hell would I even do with all that cash at my age? Take it straight to my coffin? I am taking this little yellow-haired boar and leaving. That is more than enough for a good meal. But hand over those 2 gallbladders first. I'm afraid you'll ruin them and waste the good stuff. I just sighed. I knew Fourth Grandpa's stubborn temper. If he said no and you forced it, he would just throw it back in your face. All right, whatever you say, Fourth Grandpa. After handling the meat, Fourth Grandpa didn't rush off. Instead, he dragged over a stool and sat right down. Shanha, come here. I need to talk to you about something. I crouched down beside him and asked what was wrong. He mulled it over for a second, picking his words carefully. It is about you and Sister Chinu. There has been a lot of gossip going around lately. I know you feel sorry for their family, but could you not be so open about it? 100+ pounds of pork. Can you not deliver it quietly after dark? Back then, if your reputation took a hit, even a guy would struggle to find a wife. And I was famous now. Who knew how many folks were angling to set me up with their daughters? Fourth Grandpa. You know that after my parents passed away, second uncle and second aunt were the ones who raised me. Now that Brother Xuanju is the way he is, I cannot just abandon his family. Fourth Grandpa sighed. He knew my conscience was clear, but others would not see it that way. You and that Chinu girl, there is really nothing going on between you? That sudden question made my head spin. Fourth Grandpa, do you not know me? Would I ever pull something like that? I see Brother Xuanju as a real brother and Sister Chinu as a true sister-in-law. Only then did Fourth Grandpa finally relax. He was genuinely terrified I would lose my head and do something I would regret. With my skills, I could marry any kind of girl I wanted. Aunt Sue's daughter is not bad at all. She even brought you breakfast today. He grinned broadly and started teasing me. Surprisingly, I did not push back at all. I just played along. Yeah, Sister Shioli's pretty nice. Fourth Grandpa felt his heart leap with absolute joy hearing that. So there was hope after all. Good boy. If you actually like her, be smart about it. Take half a side of that wild boar over to her family. Show your real intentions. In times like these, real goods speak a lot louder than sweet words. If you are too embarrassed to say it, I will put my old reputation on the line and ask them myself. Aunt Sue and her family were scraping by, but at least they had that steady pension. They had her late husband's martyr pension to lean on. Plus, Xiao Shioli and her sisters were old enough now to help out. Over the years, Fourth Grandpa always made sure to bring them a cut of whatever he hunted. Even though the families had drifted apart over the generations, they were all still part of the Xiao clan. I told Fourth Grandpa I understood, scratching my head in pure embarrassment. I will go deliver the pork in just a bit. Fourth Grandpa smiled with deep satisfaction. Being childless, he had long since come to view me a lonely orphan as his very own grandson. Living to see me married with a lively household would fulfill his greatest wish. All right, I am taking this little boar with me. Fourth Grandpa stood up with a heavy grunt. He bent over, hoisted the 50-pound boar effortlessly onto his shoulder, and walked off with steady, even step. Not a single hint of old age about him. After seeing Fourth Grandpa off, I grabbed the gleaming, perfectly honed butcher knife and chopped the remaining boar in half with a few sharp strokes. It weighed maybe 20 pounds. Just yesterday, I had sent Sister Shioli's family meat from a male wild boar. It was tough, gamey, and not exactly the most delicious meat, but this young boar would be far more tender and fresh. Then my eyes fell straight onto those 2 massive bear paws. Glossy black fur and hooked claws radiating a wild, primal kind of majesty. Folks said bear paw was one of the finest delicacies in the world. The problem? I had zero idea how to prepare it. Perfect. I would just bring one along and ask Aunt Sue if she knew how to cook it. She had run a household her entire life. Maybe she knew. Decision made. I told Shaun to guard the yard, lock the front gate, and set off towards Sister Shioli's house tucked deep inside the alley. Half a young boar in one hand, a heavy, massive bear paw in the other. Reaching the familiar courtyard gate, before I could even raise a hand to knock, The door creaked right open. I nearly ran smack into Aunt Sue, heading out. "Oh my, Shanha, what brings you over here?" She was startled at first, but then her eyes latched onto the slab of white pork on my shoulder like absolute fishhooks. Every wrinkle on her face instantly bloomed into a massive smile. "Aunt Sue, I brought some fresh young boar meat for you. This meat is incredibly tender, way better than that tough male one from yesterday." Smiling, I handed her the pork, then held up the massive bear paw. "Oh, and this too. Everyone says bear paw is a delicacy, but I have never seen one before. I have zero idea how to cook it. I was really hoping you might know how to prepare it properly." Seeing me hauling over so much meat, Aunt Sue was completely overjoyed. "Shanha, bringing so much meat, I thought you came to propose. Shioli, come help. Shanha is here." Sister Shioli heard the commotion, lifted the heavy door curtain, and finally stepped outside. Her face flushed a bright pink. She kept her head practically buried in her chest, eyes glued firmly to her toes, entirely terrified to look my way. She just held out both hands and murmured gently, "Let me take that." Then she lifted the 20-plus pound slab of meat right off my shoulder. She balanced it on her own with a graceful turn of her wrist, heading inside as smoothly as any seasoned farmhand. "Hey, you little thing. Did you leave your soul somewhere?" Aunt Sue purposely raised her voice. "Shani is here, and you do not even say hello. Just marching inside with your head down. Where are your manners?" That made Sister Shioli turn even redder, like blood was about to drip right off her face. She quickened her pace and practically fled into the house. "Do not take it to heart, Shanha. That silly girl is only bold at home. She sees you and completely freezes up. She is just shy, that is all." Aunt Sue could not have been more direct. She was obviously trying to push us together. "It is fine, Aunt. Sister Shioli is really nice." I smiled sheepishly and steered the conversation elsewhere. "Oh, right. Aunt, do you know how to cook this bear paw?" Aunt Sue was no fool. The second she heard that, she knew exactly what I was doing. This was a perfect opening I had just handed her. Whether she knew how or not, she was definitely going to say she did. "Shanha, you asked the perfect person. Cooking bear paw is quite an art form. Come inside and I will tell you all about it." As she ushered me in, she called toward the back rooms. "Second, third, fourth. Come out and see who is here. Say hi to brother Shanya." Aunt Sue had 4 kids. Eldest daughter Shioli, 21. Second daughter Shiomi, exactly my, just turned 18. Third child, son Jinglei, 16. And the youngest, Jingyu. "You are here." A gangly boy shot right out. It was Jinglei, looking at me with total worship in his eyes. "You are amazing. A black bear, how did you take it down?" Another girl followed him out, Shiom. Unlike her older sister, she was not shy at all. Her big bright eyes kept stealing eager glances at me. Just lucky, really. So it went like this. I did not bother acting modest. I pulled up a small stool, sat down, and started telling the tale of my hair-raising hunt in vivid detail. Aunt Sue and Sister Shioli stayed busy in the outer room, one washing rice, the other dealing with the meat. But my story had so many wild twists that even they got hooked. They ended up leaning against the doorway, ears totally cocked. Entertainment was pretty scarce back then, and my dramatic retelling was way more gripping than some professional storyteller. "Brother Shanha, next time you go hunting, can you please take me along?" Jinglei was practically buzzing, especially after the part about the bear. He wished he had been there himself. I glanced over at Aunt Sue and smiled. "I do not mind, but your mom might not let you go." Hunting deep in the mountains was a game played right on the edge of a knife. "Mom, I want to go hunting with brother Shanha." Jinglei ran straight to Aunt Sue, chin held high. She did not refuse him outright, just scolded him with a laugh. "You think going into the mountains is like visiting the market? With your amateur skills, you would just slow brother Shanha down." But she was definitely thinking it over. Money was incredibly tight. If Jinglei could pick up even a fraction of those hunting skills, it would be a real lifeline for this big family. She looked at me, questioning. "Shanha, do you actually think this boy has what it takes?" "Aunt Sue, just talking about it tells us nothing." I smiled. "In a couple of days, I will take him into the mountains, just around the outskirts, and we will see what he is made of." Aunt Sue nodded thoughtfully and turned back to her prep work. An hour later, the rich smell of cooking filled the entire yard. She had spared absolutely no expense. She even steamed sorghum rice, something they usually would not touch, even at New Year. Steaming bowls of meat covered the small square table. Little Jingyu stared hard at the sizzling, glistening feast, his drool practically hitting the floor. "Shioli, do not just stand there. Get Shanha seated for dinner." Sister Shioli kept her head down the entire time, that bright flush never leaving her cheeks. The tiny table was packed tight. With everyone seated, only one spot to my right was left open. She just stood there, pinching the hem of her shirt, completely unable to step closer. Finally, Aunt Sue could not take it anymore. She grabbed Shioli by the hand and firmly plunked her down right next to me. "Shanna, your aunt is not very good with words. Aunt Sue picked up her cup, the rims of her eyes going completely red. You bring us fresh meat every single time you hunt, always thinking of our family. I am just so incredibly grateful from the bottom of my heart. All these years this widow and her orphans have scraped by. We have never met anyone as good to us as you. Her voice began to shake, tears welling up fast. Shom quickly patted her mother on the back. Mom, Shanha bringing us meat is a happy occasion. What are you crying for? Aunt Sue quickly wiped her tears, shot her daughter a glare, and scolded her with a laugh. You silly girl. Zero respect, just calling him Shanha. Even if you are not calling him brother-in-law yet, you should at least call him Big Brother. Mom, Shanha is actually a month younger than me. Making me call him Big Brother makes zero sense. Shom retorted at once, never one to back down. But the second those words left her mouth, Aunt Sue completely froze. Wait a minute. Even she did not know my birthday. So how did the second daughter know? Sister Shioli looked up too, staring at her younger sister in pure confusion. Shom cleared her throat. We played house so much as kids. I just picked it up. Shom realized her slip and quickly tried to cover it with a fake cough. An awkward silence hung over the table. The younger brothers hadn't caught on. They just kept shoveling fat meat into their mouths. Sister Shioli picked up a piece of meat with her chopsticks. She hesitated. Should she put it in my bowl? Right then, Shom reached across the table and dropped a massive chunk into my bowl. Shanha, you have to try my mom's cooking. Shioli's chopsticks froze midair. The tension instantly thickened. But Aunt Sue was quick. She grabbed her bowl, leaning toward her eldest daughter to save the moment. Ah, my big girl is so sweet to me. Sister Shioli took the cue, dropping her meat into Aunt Sue's bowl instead. Oblivious, Jingle grabbed the biggest chunk and piled it right on top. Jingyu followed suit right away. In no time, Aunt Sue's bowl was a literal mountain of meat. I sat there squirming. Sweat beaded on my back. This dinner was an absolute mess. It honestly felt like waiting for an execution. That piece of meat Shom dropped in my bowl. Eating it felt totally wrong, but leaving it felt worse. Did she actually have feelings for me? That couldn't be right. My mind kept spinning. You really couldn't call us childhood sweethearts. Sure, we played and got into trouble as kids. But growing up, boys and girls kept their distance, especially after I moved in with my second uncle. We barely saw each other after that. Meanwhile, Aunt Sue's heart was a completely tangled mess. Later on, I slowly pieced together what she had been thinking. She was so sure I was into her eldest daughter, entirely because of Shioli's recent behavior. At 21, matchmakers had practically worn out her doorstep. Yet Shioli refused every single one of them, no matter how hard anyone tried to persuade her. But just a few days ago, Aunt Sue asked Shioli to come to my house for meat, and for once the girl didn't say no. The next day, she volunteered to bring me food. Having lived through young love herself, Aunt Sue lit up. This had to mean she was smitten, and now, seeing me bring meat, agreed to take Jingle hunting, and catch my eyes drifting towards Shioli. She was absolutely certain I had fallen for her eldest daughter. But Shom's bold moves today made Aunt Sue's heart leap right into her throat. Did her second daughter like me too? If that was the case, two sisters falling for the exact same man, what would people even say? Throughout that meal, except for the two clueless boys eating their fill, the rest of us were a million miles away. The food tasted like pure sawdust. Aunt Sue, I am totally full. I will head home now and see you another day. I couldn't sit there for one more second. I gulped down a bite and stood up. The atmosphere was incredibly awkward. Honestly, I felt like I would choke if I stayed any longer. Aunt Sue absent-mindedly cleared the dishes. Shanha, I got the bear paw completely prepared. It is soaking in cooking wine and spices right now. Day after tomorrow, I will send Jingle to fetch you for dinner. I nodded and turned around. Suddenly, Shom sprang off her stool and hurried over with a bright smile. Mom, it is getting dark out. I will walk Shanha home. The second those words hit the air, Sister Shioli visibly jerked while clearing the dishes. The bowls in her hands clinked softly. She kept her head down and stayed silent, but everyone in that yard felt the heavy hurt radiating off her. Aunt Sue's face completely froze too. Now she was 100% sure her second daughter had fallen for me. Shom was clearly far more outgoing than her older sister. The palm or the back of the hand, both were her own flesh and blood. She had absolutely no idea what to do, total inner chaos. Sister Shioli never raised her head, never said a single word. She just grabbed the dishes and, like a completely numb puppet, walked slowly toward the outer room. But Shom didn't notice a thing. She just gave my arm a friendly tug. Come on, Shanha, I will walk with you. Inside I was groaning, but I couldn't exactly embarrass the girl by refusing. Watching the scene, Aunt Sue closed her eyes in pure pain. The two clueless boys still hadn't caught on at all. They were just cheering about eating bear paw the day after next, practically dancing with excitement. What happened after I left? Aunt Sue told me later. She couldn't stop worrying, so she followed her out. Under the dim lamplight, Shioli wasn't washing dishes. She just stood there completely frozen, Holding the stack of bowls, she stared blankly like her soul had totally left her body. Aunt Sue sighed silently, walked over and gently patted her shoulder. Big girl. She only jolted like she was waking up. Her hand trembled, a bowl slipped, shattering to pieces on the hard dirt floor. That sharp, sudden shatter was exactly like a switch flipping. The next second, massive tears rolled from her eyes, splashing one after another onto the dirt. She couldn't hold it back anymore. She sank slowly to the dirt, buried her face deep in her knees, shoulders shaking hard. She didn't even dare cry out loud. Just these suppressed, choked sobs escaping her throat. The sight completely broke Aunt Sue's heart. Her oldest daughter had suffered so much over the years. Being the firstborn, she always gave up her food and comfort for her younger siblings. She had been working the fields and running that household since she was tiny. Her hands were calloused and far rougher than other girls her age. "Oh, my big girl, please don't cry." Aunt Sue crouched down too and pulled her daughter close. "Shanha brought us meat today and even agreed to take Jinglei hunting. He clearly did that because of you. It means he definitely has feelings for you." She stroked her daughter's trembling back, speaking each word with heavy seriousness. "You are grown now, and Mama needs to tell you this. Some things you can yield to others. Giving in is a kindness. But there are a few things in life you only get one shot at. Those you cannot give up. Yield them, and you will regret it forever." She knew this was not entirely fair to Shomei. They were both her own flesh and blood, but birth order mattered. And beyond that, Shuli had developed real feelings for me long before her sister ever did. "Shomei? Mom?" Sister Shuli jerked her head up and gazed right at her mother through teary eyes. She never expected her mother to say something like that. All her life she was raised to be sensible, to yield, to look after the younger siblings. That is what made her so introverted. A girl who buried absolutely everything inside. There. Mama knows you have suffered so much all these years." Aunt Sue wiped the tears from her cheeks, eyes full of deep tenderness and resolve. "Shanha is a good man, reliable, capable, and kind. Marry him, and you will never have to swallow another bitter pill at home again. You will have a good life." Hearing those words, Sister Shuli seemed to completely freeze in place. The tears flooding down her face miraculously stopped at her mother's words. In their place, a sudden heat surged from her chest straight up to her cheeks. She hurriedly bowed her head, her gaze dropping to her dirt-stained shoes. "Just wait until your sister gets back. See if I do not give her a piece of my mind." Aunt Sue looked at her eldest daughter, feeling both aching sympathy and sheer exasperation. The nerve of that girl, showing zero respect for order. But Sister Shuli just shook her head softly, her voice barely a whisper. "Mom, please do not blame her. It is just that Shanha is too wonderful." Those were her true, honest feelings. It was only later, when Aunt Sue recounted all this to me, that I truly understood the grievances and secret thoughts Shuli had kept buried inside. "Would you look at yourself? Defending your sister already?" Aunt Sue stretched out a finger, tapping her forehead in mock exasperation. "Have you forgotten how you were crying your eyes out just a second ago?" Sister Shuli felt embarrassed, pouting, crouched down to pick up the shards one by one, as if trying to sweep away both her earlier sadness and her fresh, shy embarrassment. Meanwhile, Shomei was pulling me along for quite a distance. Twilight was falling hard, and the dirt village paths had already grown dim. "Shomei, if there is nothing else, you really should head back. It is getting dark. It would not look good if someone saw us together." Shomei blinked her big eyes, and instead of leaving, she pressed even closer. "Shanha, if a girl like me isn't afraid, what are you so scared of?" I had to admit, the girl was wildly outgoing. She had that bold, fiercely straightforward spirit of a northeastern girl. I cleared my throat. "I am going to be your brother-in-law someday." She just clicked her tongue and muttered under her breath, "Nothing is settled yet. Who knows who will end up with whom?" What was that? Her words drifted on the evening wind, so I didn't catch them clearly. Shomei suddenly arched her eyebrow, a teasing smile on her face, and boldly quipped back, "What? Haven't you heard this saying? A little sister-in-law is half a wife." Before she could even finish that daring phrase, my brain short-circuited. Without thinking, I clamped my hand right over her loose mouth. "You are a young lady! What kind of utter nonsense are you spouting?" In that split second, time seemed to freeze. The two of us were pressed practically skin to skin. Shomei could clearly smell the heavy mixture of sweat and soap tree scent on me. For someone so bold and carefree, her pretty face flushed bright red all the way to her ears. She batted my hand away like she was shocked, totally at a loss for words. "I will head back now." Before her voice even faded, she bolted like a startled rabbit, never once looking back. I stood there watching her flustered figure recede into the distance, letting out a completely helpless sigh. What an absolute mess I had gotten myself into. When I got home, before I even entered the yard, I spotted Fourth Grandpa squatting by my gate. He was smoking a pipe, 3 leashed dogs beside him. The ember glowed on and off in the dusk. "Fourth Grandpa, what brings you out here?" He looked up, seeing that I was walking back from the direction of Sister Shuli's house. A slow, satisfied smile spread across his weathered face. Finally, the boy was getting it. Like a groom visiting the in-laws. I brought these 3 hunting dogs just for you. He stood up and dusted himself off. Puzzled, I hurried forward, unlocked the gate, and welcomed him inside. The 3 dogs trotted into the yard. But the moment they spotted Sean resting by the door, not a single one dared to make a sound. Instead, as if by silent agreement, they all lowered their bodies. Uneasy growls rumbled in their throats before they flattened completely to the ground, tails tucked tight.